I was just thinking a simple check-in. I just I just like the like how are you feeling? How are you feeling about things right now in general in the TEC? Um, Rex, do you want to kick it off?
I feel good. No. I think we're making progress. Um, I think we're heading forward. Uh, yeah. I I'm hopeful, but I'm a bit mindful that in my eyes we're still going a bit too slow. Just because of, well, for example, the Discord reorganization has been at standstill for 2 weeks, and that's just one thing that kind of I've been doing async and hitting roadblocks essentially. Um, and there's a number of things just like that that we haven't even considered yet, and that need care. We're not giving it that care. What do you think, Tam?
Hey. I think I feel like I'm seeing a lot of progress happening around, and I'm really glad that I believe, have now a final proposal, which I think is great. Something that Gideon brought to my attention today, which I feel like is wow, what a miss, was that the TEC transformation proposal didn't receive quorum, and I just feel like gobsmacked by that because that's a big miss. On my part, but on all of our parts, that just didn't. I guess it would pass, and then it's like, oh, it passed, but did it really pass? And then I guess it's just something that reminded me that we need a process, a more clean, a more transparent process that would have followed and tracked it, and then ensured that the quorum was met too. And that's just what immediately I'm like, how can we fix that? How can we make it better? So just to maybe bring that into what we're doing going forward is the checks of the cultural votes, the snapshot votes. Maybe having like a little checklist to make sure that it goes through, and then publishing something at the end. But I think we're making really nice progress. I know it does feel a little slow. I can relate to that, Rex. But I think it's not slower than it needs to be in order to do it right and bring everyone together forward. That's what I'm feeling right now today. And I'll pass to Nate.
Yeah, I think things are moving pretty well. I think momentum is slowly starting to pick up. So I know it seems slow right now, but I think we're heading at a good pace. So I'll pass it over to Bear. Bear, if you're speaking, you're on mute. I will pass it to NT in the interim.
Thanks. Yeah, I can relate to what Rex said, for example, but I'm feeling happier I'm more confident than what I was feeling probably the last week or 2 weeks. I've been more into the creation service and stuff. I'm happy that seems like next week we will finally get that rolling. And so yeah, just really excited to see something finally coming out that we've been working on for some time. I'll pass it over to Acid Laser.
Thanks, NT. Yeah, I'm feeling better now. Actually, more because I have been thinking with NT and Nate regularly the Mondays, and that it's helping the project and the team, and things are going better. And I'm watching Mexico's game in the World Cup, so I might can be distracted, but I'm here. And I don't know who's left. Maybe Bear. Are you there?
I can take it. Yeah, Gideon and I spent like 3 hours hacking on this proposal yesterday, and there was so much surfaced on things that needs to be addressed in the TC. So it was inspiring and also clarifying to see paths to move forward. And I'm excited to share this proposal today. And I'll pass back to you, Gideon, or Marathon Mind. Do you want to say hi?
Marathon Mind, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Do you want to check your system and then we can circle back? And Bear, should we try one more time with you?
He said in the chat that he's not able to talk right now.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll go. Yeah, I am feeling pretty optimistic right now, so I feel good. And I'm not going to break out into song like Rex because it might not be too good for you all. I would say that at the same time, I am mindful of all the stuff that's on our plates. That is frustrating to hear about the Discord reorg taking so long, Rex. So I think, one of the things that we've got to do is just like be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So it's like moving these kinds of like transformation issues through while still staying focused on hi Marathon Mind, do you want to say hi right now? Yeah. Okay. I think we're gonna keep going. And sorry about that. I'm not sure what's happening with your audio. So the thing I was saying is, I think there's been one of the things that we've been using the sample call to kind of like be the place where we're just moving the kind of logistical issues through. And so one of the decisions we came to last week is to really try to reserve that time to just make progress on some of these more pressing issues and not really talk about the transformation process. So that seems to be a good solution to try to keep us moving forward. And we'll free up some time, I think, pretty soon to be able to start to figure out how we can begin the process of tackling some of these bigger issues. But first, we've got to pass this proposal. Before that, I see that Enti, you put something in there about the curation service, or was that you asked it? Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. So for those who are not aware, we are targeting the soft launch of the curation service for next week. And so I'm thinking that something that could be great is to have some time, all of us or everyone that can make it, to sort of go through the curation service. I know some people doesn't quite get how to use it or what is it for exactly, and so just running through what it is, how can we use it, how is it useful for the TE and TEC, so that we can prepare for if there's any people coming from outside the community asking questions or whatever, we are all able to assist in that front. And so there's a little meeting there. Deadline to put everyone's hours is probably tomorrow around 12 p.m. ET or something like that. And after that, I'll pick 1 hour and just try to have as much people as possible in there. And a small thing in that same line is that we're also planning to do some sort of community call or community activity, however we want to call it, the first week of December, to invite people from multiple communities to get hands-on the creation service and hopefully incentivize a bit of movement there as well. That's pretty much it. I don't know if there's any question, but yeah.
Thanks, Inti. Nobody has any questions about like what the next steps are with the curation service?
Yeah, and we're working in some threads for the launch. These threads are for presentate the creation service, also how to use it, what is curate, and that kind of stuff, so people can understand it better. And the tweets are going to be up the next week. Yeah, hope you like them.
I know we will. I had a great call yesterday with Angela too to talk about whether there's an opportunity for the Token Engineering Academy to use the curation service. So basically, it was me just demoing it to her and getting some feedback from her on the service. And so she's, I think she seemed to really like what we're doing, and so she's thinking about it, like how she doesn't want to just use it for, to just for the sake of using it. So she's thinking about how they might actually use it, like what would the scenarios be. And one of the things that we talked about, the Common Sense team, who are partners on this, they see us as design partners, and so I was also offering that we could extend that same role to the academy too. So anyway, she's thinking about that, and that's encouraging. Okay, so let's move into this proposal. So as Livy said, we did have a marathon session yesterday, and I want to also just really express my appreciation for Livia on this whole process, and just like Livy, your dedication to this mission and to the spirit of what we're trying to do here is just so obvious and so strong, and it's actually pretty inspiring. So and yeah. So I think that the proposal is better as a result of the work we've done over this last week and a half or 2 weeks, and I think it's actually going to make it easier to pass. So there's a link in the document, and I recommend that everybody maybe just open it up and scan it right now to just get a sense. I mean, it hasn't changed that much. Livy, how about I was just going to point out a couple of places where it did change, and actually I'm going to just share my screen, and then I'll turn it over to you, Livy, to just see if you have some additional thoughts you wanted to share, and then also like what the next steps are. So most of what you see, okay, I'm just going to scroll to the top, most of this stuff up here is really just us integrating and simplifying the two proposals. So my original fork, and then also Livy's fork. And you'll see, we've kept the colors in here. So the blue is the differences between my own fork of my original, and then the red stuff is Livy's, and there's some stuff that we ended up deleting. One of the big questions right now, and this came up last week, is how much this will end up costing. And basically what we've come up with, thanks to Bear for this, some good analysis of just trying to kind of simplify for this interim period what our monthly spending would be. And it would be about 10,000 XDAI a month. And so this is kind of the determining factor of how long this interim period will go. This, and then one other factor, which is how much money we actually have. So right now, we have funds from the Sampo working group and from the Communitas working group, and we are waiting to hear how much, if any, of the comms working group remaining funds will end up coming into this. And the answer to that will determine whether this interim period where this group is operating before we have to submit a formal proposal to conviction voting, whether that period is going to be just the end of December, which is what it is right now, or whether if the comms funding comes in, we'll have a little bit more breathing space and be able to go through probably second week of February. So we're waiting to hear back from Chewy on that. So most of this has remained the same. So the thing I wanted to call out is this section here, team goals for the transition period. So these are some of the issues that were identified through the feedback process. So community accountability and team accountability systems, like how do we make sure that we are doing what we say we're going to do, both as team members to each other, so that we're responsible to each other. Like this is kind of the idea of a self-directed work team. What does that look like? And then also community accountability. How does the community hold this team accountable? And then there's clarifying some of our project management and governance processes. And then, so this is kind of like what stewardship looks like in a way, the sprints and things like that. What is that going to look like going forward? How much of that is going to change? And then this is another thing that came out is the clarifying the relationship between voluntary contributions recognized by praise and then paid contributions among the coordination team and maybe others as well. And then the final area is given that the steward transformation process did not actually get enough of a quorum, what we're saying is that this proposal replaces coordination of the DAO formerly done by the TEC stewards, at least during this interim period, and that we need to figure out what the longer term answer is going to look like exactly, and that's part of what this team will be trying to do over this interim period. I'm going to stop there. Livy, do you have other things you'd like to call out?
No, yeah, I think just the overall direction of opening more to token engineering, and yeah, and I think some of the things in the governance process that we understood that need to be looked at more carefully. But I think you went through everything.
Okay, great. Do you want to walk everybody through what we were thinking for the next step?
Yeah, so the idea is we're just waiting on the final budget from Chewy, from comms. It seems like there is an agreement to send the remaining funds from comms to this transition process. So we'll have approximately 3 months of funding before we have to submit a proposal for conviction voting. And we'll have the final budget today still. So the next step will be to submit this to Snapshot and notify stakeholders that this proposal is there, that we're going through this transition. I think there was something there around the stewards transformation, like, do we want to, how are we doing this final transition from the stewards? Is the stewards dissolving completely? So all of these things, I think it's important to communicate to stakeholders, and it's all addressed in this proposal. So the vote duration is 4 days. And once this passes, the team will get together to work on the next steps that are that are expressed there as well. So understanding the roadmap, what is more or less the roles that each person is taking. And I think this is already kind of decided. I mean, the team has been working on all of this stuff already. And yeah, then executing weekly on what is proposed and what is going to continue to be proposed. So that's part of the accountability process that we were suggesting, that there is this feedback from community every month. And yeah, then the next step would be to submit a proposal to conviction voting around February.
Okay, thank you. So, so does this goes up on the forum first, and then that's up for 4 days, and then goes to the vote, or how? Can you remind me again, Livia, how that works?
Yeah, I think technically it should have been in the forum, but I feel like we did open a lot of space for advice for this. Like, the purpose of being in the forum is that people have the chance to give advice, but we've been on such a like deep advice process with this that I would, yeah, that from my understanding, I think is ready. I don't know if we need to like post in the forum just for a formality, but I'm open to hear if anyone thinks we should.
That's great. Thanks for clarifying that. I wasn't clear about that, but it does seem like we've done a lot of advice process on this. So, well, does anybody else have thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, I was a bit distracted. What was it?
If this proposal is going to be proposed in the forum anyways, because we need to post the forum link on Snapshot. But the question is, like, based on our process, we should leave the proposals at least 5 days in the forum before they go to any other voting process, so they can receive advice. But I feel like we have worked so much on the advice process of this proposal. We had forks, there was like calls about it. I think many people were aware that this was happening. So I don't know if just for a formality, we need to wait for these days on the forum and then post on Snapshot. I would suggest that we post in the forum and directly on Snapshot.
I don't have a super strong opinion either way, but I do want to say that we did advice process within a very small group of people who are active on our Discord server. And I understood that posting on the forum was to reach a more community-wide advice process.
I do think that posting it directly into Snapshot is fine. So I think like anyways, the document is sort of a formality as well in the whole process, because we are in a lot of ways already working under most of the premises of the document, and so yeah. Maybe, as Tom said, maybe probably leave it less time, 1 or 2 days, to see if there's anyone on the broader community to have some comments. But I do think that at this point is more a formality for the process than really a decision, because we have sort of already made it.
Well, here's an alternative view on this. I mean, I believe me, I really would like to get this done as quickly as possible. But I think since let's put it this way: if we thought that this putting it up for the remainder of this week, because I think that's what it would be. It would mean like just putting it up on Monday the for the vote. But maybe what we could do is put it up there this week. As long as we can keep working, which I think we're going to do anyways, then maybe it doesn't hurt that much. What do people think? Livy, what do you think do you see any problems with that?
I think Tam has a good point.
Any other comments on this?
Following some previous proposals, there's some scope to be pragmatic. We're not really going to have this done until until next Monday, whether we post it on Snapshot now. Effectively, I mean, for the sake of these calls, these transformation calls. So if we do the math, then my understanding is that we can put it up for the forum for 2 days and just be a bit more pragmatic about it without any impact on the operations of the group. But yeah, I don't care. Honestly, I think everybody that's wanted to have a say has had a say, and I feel like we've already gotten at that. So if we want to leave it for 2 days as a formality, then by all means, please.
Okay, let's do this so that we're not spending a whole bunch of time just on this thing. So why don't we just follow the the guidelines, and then just have the team not get hung up on this, and get to just basically turn everybody's attention. I think to two things. One is just getting the work done, turning back to Discord and figuring out what those things are, refocusing on those efforts, the curation service and stuff. And then also probably next week, once this has been up on the forum and the broader group of the broader community has had a chance to see it, then I think doing some outreach to just make sure that this actually gets quorum, because I think that would really suck, is if we did all this work and then we didn't get enough people actually voting on it. So that's my suggestion. Is there any strong opposition to that? How about this? If you're okay with it, just do one of those emoji thumbs up things right now, and then we can. Okay. I think that's okay. I think that's most of us. So good. I think we have a process. And so Livy, maybe after this call we can just sync up, or would you mind posting it in the forum?
I could, but I feel like this is mostly your proposal.
Okay.
Why don't you post in the forum and I post on Snapshot?
Okay. All right. That sounds good. And this will be this will be from both of us, so I'll label it as such on there. But I'm happy to post it up there. Okay. Well, good. Oh, this feels good. This feels really good. All right. So the next thing is, let's see. Wait, actually, I think I just need to take a break or take a little breath just to recognize that I think this actually is a pretty big moment. And it's nice to just recognize that we just made a huge step forward. So, yeah. Let's just take that in for a second. Rex is going crazy with the emoticons. Yeah, that's nice. It feels good.
Do we need some collective cheers, hip hip hooray?
Yeah, I feel like we should have some celebratory music or something, but that might take a little bit. Yeah. I just, actually, I just think it's good to like, make some space. And one of the other things, Livy, speaking of making space, one of the things that we talked about a while ago, this is not on the agenda, but we talked about making some space in one of these calls in the next few weeks to do some type of ritual recognition for all the contributions that the stewards have made. And I think that's a really important thing to do. So we don't have to talk about that today, but I would like, I think we should, maybe next Tuesday, or can we talk about that next Tuesday, like how to do that? Confetti. Next Tuesday sounds good. Yeah. So I think it's just like figuring out how we can actually get the folks here and be able to do some type of celebration or recognition. So Livy, maybe you and I can talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, I think Tam has great insights on it too. She made very good celebrations for past stewards.
Awesome. So maybe the three of us can just like put our heads together and see the best way to do that. Because it's actually really cool. Like we're seeing YGG like just out of the blue just made this proposal in the Communitas channel. I'm not going to go into the details, but it's like what? Wow. I mean, it's kind of cool. So
I did add that to agenda because I would love if we could chat about that.
okay. Oh, you did. All right.
Yeah, there's two things I added to the agenda.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's get going then. Let's move on to the next topic. All right. So Livy had offered to provide us with a walkthrough, just kind of like a reminder of like the framework, the governance framework, which I feel like we could all probably use at this point, especially for those of us who weren't here in the founding of the TEC. So Livy, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I noticed that the governance process was kind of buried in the forum and not many people had seen it, or that maybe looked too overwhelmed. And the feedback we got in that session we did a couple of weeks ago was, that there was not so much clarity around it. So I wanted to walk through on what are our steps of governance, what is advice process, why we have each one of these things or we thought of them, and also clarify that anyone can propose a change to the governance process using the framework we have now. So starting on advice process, like I think first misconception is that advice process is not a consensus tool. It's actually quite the opposite of that. It's like if we don't want to lose time on reaching consensus, what is a process that we can use? So and this was a suggestion from Tam that we divided them in 3 sections of small impact, medium impact, large impact. So understanding first, what is the impact of the decision you're going to make? And a good way to kind of gauge that is how many people are going to be affected by my decision and how many people probably have expertise or something to say on what I'm doing. So maybe a blocker for us has been, how do I know who are these people? So we had a thing called subject matter experts. That was a role that never really took off, but that in this transition is something that would be great to think of. Like, who are the advisors that could be reached out to when we need advice process? So if it's a small impact decision, like, oh, I want to change the emoji of a channel, like maybe I just need to ask 1 or 2 people that would probably care about that, and then I can go ahead and do it. or medium impact decision is more like related to working groups. So small impact is, yeah, just something you need to move forward quick. There's 1 or 2 people that can help you with, or that will be affected by that. And then medium impact decision is, we used to think of like, oh, when something affects a whole working group and it's within the boundaries of that working group, then you can just add something to the agenda, bring up in a call, ask the people who participate often in that work stream for them to advise, and then you can move forward. And that means that not everybody in the working group or everybody that is joining that call in that day need to have a say. It's people that could be strategic about what is needed to move forward. And then large impact decision, it's something like this, for example, that we're doing now. It's likely going to affect the whole community. So we're shifting the org design or thinking of a transition that might like shift roles. So that's why it's important to post on the forum, to tag people that could collaborate with that. And that's why I suggested the fork idea, but I think it was poorly suggested, so I apologize for that. But that's kind of like, okay, advice process. How can we move with things without needing consensus? And a point of improvement to it is understanding who can advise, where, how, when, and following your own discernment. So there's something also about advice process that is this like dynamic creation of proposals. If you have an idea, if there's something you want to do, you can create a proposal for that and move forward with it, just like considering the opinion of these people you're requesting advice from. And as the owner of the proposal, you have the permission to move forward. You have the discernment to integrate something and not integrate something else, for example. And then other people can submit other proposals if they like have a strong opinion in another direction. So yeah, this is advice process. And then there's a few links from here. So we have this as like the base for how we propose things. And if it's a large impact decision, we consider 3 things as being largely impactful. One is something that is requesting funds. So if funds come out of the common pool, they will affect the whole community. So you post on the forum, receive advice, integrate, and then submit to conviction voting. If it's a cultural decision, or if you need community signal for something that is really big, like we did with laser tag, for example, it was a community signal, cultural decision that we were gonna move forward with that, even though we weren't taking funds out of the common pool. So you post on the forum and then you bring it to Snapshot to have that like yes or no decision to understand, okay, this is happening, the community is aware of this and is in acceptance of this. And on Snapshot, we have 2 measures of quorum. One is we need at least 10 people voting in the proposal and at least 10% of the total token supply voting in the proposal. So to keep track of this, we had this decision tracking list that was tracking all of the proposals, all of the decisions that passed on all of our voting processes. And there was a mistake here on the single choice that the quorum wasn't considered. So I think it was just it passed unnoticed. And the stewards working group proposal should have 208,000 tokens to pass, because that's 10% of the token supply. And it didn't. So you see this other proposal, the water one, we understood that quorum was enriched here. but it's not in this list. But the conversation happened at that time, and then here it just fell out of everyone's attention. So just to ratify that the stewards working group proposal didn't pass, and that this quorum should be just a little more clear to everyone. And then TAO voting is all of the decisions that will change the DNA of the DAO. So if we want to implement a DApp, if we want to include a DApp on Gardens, for example, so conviction voting had to be included on Gardens through TAO voting. So the bonding curve also through TAO voting. So if anything needs to be modified in the technical side of the DAO, it should go to TAO voting. And then this has its own quorum and parameters that were decided during the hatch and the commons upgrade, and it's also available in this proposal that you can see in the details. And then token log we use when we want a crowd, we want participation of the crowd. So we want many proposals to be submitted, and token log serves as a curation tool. So people can vote quadratically. It's off chain, but uses our tokens and it's quadratic. And the top proposals, the most voted ones, will stay on top. And then we usually follow up with a runoff vote on Snapshot to ratify the decision of token log. So maybe there's like 5 top proposals. They go to the runoff using ranked choice voting, and then a clear winner is decided, like one proposal out of the many that went through this curation process. So this is our governance framework. I think the most confusion existed on advice process and on when to use Snapshot. So yeah, I'd like to open for questions, see if there's anything unclear so far.
Thanks for going over that, Livy. I guess my biggest question that I have is regarding the advice process in relation to Snapshot. As you said, is the most confusing part. Where I've seen the most confusion is when we're going through the advice process, whether we're using Snapshot to actually ratify something or we're using Snapshot to actually signal something. And I think that gets really confused, and I'm wondering if there's something that we can do to distinguish between those two objectives.
Yeah, perhaps signaling could be removed from here, because I think anything that is like positively or negatively signaled will end up becoming a decision, a cultural decision. So yeah, I think they're basically the same thing: large impact cultural decisions and community signal. I don't know if anyone can think of different examples.
I'm not sure. I did want to ask specifically on so for example, with this Discord thing, I'd say this is a large impact decision because it will affect how our main working space is operated. But the people that vote on Snapshot, so it doesn't need money. I don't believe it needs tower voting either. But the people that vote on Snapshot aren't those that use the Discord daily. Right? So so like, where would this fit? Like, I would assume that. So the advice process that I was thinking for it was to first get quorum in this transformation group, and then identify specific members of the community that represent every other functioning aspect, right? So I asked members from Omega, Rewards, and Gravity to corroborate and like say yes, all these working groups are happy, and then. But I don't see it going anywhere here. So how rigid is this, and what? Like would that be sufficient? Yeah.
I think I'd consider that like a medium impact rather than a large one. I don't know. Maybe somebody else has a different distinguishing thing. When I think of large impact, I think of like the community and all stakeholders involved, even the token holders who are kind of passive. It affects them, and in Discord, for example, like that wouldn't affect the casual token holder who's not in our Discord very often. But that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I also want to add to that. I consider the Discord server and navigation on our Discord server something to be a work stream under one working group. And yes, it might have impact on the people who join the Discord server, but that doesn't mean that anyone who joins the Discord server necessarily needs to vote on it. I think that allows each working group the flexibility to manage their own work streams in the best way for the TEC.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just the fact that you said, oh, not everyone on Snapshot is using Discord, it already makes a medium impact, I think. We should probably change that graphic to be like, since we're changing a little bit our structure of working groups, to be something else. So not necessarily ask a working group, but yeah, something that is like less people than the whole community.
Okay, that makes sense. Have we ever used small? So the subject matter experts on Discord. If we haven't made use of those, do we need to reconsider whether that role is useful or what it entails?
Something Gideon and I were chatting about, and that I know was also in Tim's proposal for the Stewards transformation, is to have a more formal group of advisors. So I think in the Stewards proposal, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but it was kind of having like certain individuals that would be invited to be in this advisory board or something like that. And I was thinking yesterday that we could continue improving and engaging advisors through our partnerships. So having this more like out-facing focus in the TEC and starting to talk more with token engineering projects and understand who are the people that would like to be in contact with the TEC more often and invite them to be advisors. So tell them what that entails, that people might reach out to them. When are they comfortable that people reach out? What are the subjects they want to be talking about? So I feel like we could create like a rotative advisory system kind of thing that is available for all contributors of the TEC, especially the coordination group and teams that are, or people, contributors that are making proposals, that they would always have access to those advisors. So I think we could revisit this role of the subject matter expert to change into something in that direction.
So I think, I'm excited about this because I think this also helps us to be more outward facing, which is great. For the sake of making sure that we can get to the last two items that Tam added, I'm going to recommend that we keep moving, unless there's something urgent that anybody else would like to add on this topic.
Yeah, maybe I want to add one thing. Maybe, I don't think it was ever designed to be very strict, stringent, rigid. It was really meant to serve as a guideline to help us make the best decision and use common sense to sort of guide us, as well as this guide. So I think it's really helpful, but people who sort of come in and are new to it might have questions. And it just occurred to me that this was super helpful, Livia, and maybe these could even be, something that we record and can share for new members who come into the TEC.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. With anybody wanting to engage in, I guess, operations, maybe don't a lot of the stuff going on there is maybe not of interest to a guy that maybe would just come in for a single interest group. But for anybody a level in one level closer, it would make sense. And I mean, it was certainly great to revisit. So thank you, because I didn't know much. Over.
Okay. And, this is one of the areas that we outlined in the proposal, the revised proposal, as an area that is going to need some work. So this topic is not over. So we're going to be coming back to this over the next couple of months. Okay. So real quick, Thursday is Thanksgiving here in the U.S. And if I join a call on Thursday, then I might be served up for Thanksgiving myself. So Livy and I were talking about what to do about that. And Livy, what was your suggestion? You have done something in the past, tradition. Can you talk about that?
Not I, but like everyone, and Jess organized that initially to have a praise giving. It's when we had the community calls every Thursday. I think there's many Americans in the community. I don't know if we have time to organize a whole thing, but we could like take it as a celebratory day and maybe jump into praise like crazy and really be grateful for each other and have a moment to share that.
What do people think about that? I can't weigh in because I won't be here, but what do others think about just jumping on Thursday and having a little bit more informal session that's focused around praise?
Is this for this call, for the transformation call, or for the orientation call?
For this call.
So basically just try to whip up some more attendance for this transformation call, or just the few of us here today that would be able to show up on Thursday? So to try to make it more of a community event, is what I understand.
Yeah, I don't know I don't think there's too much time to plan and gather momentum, but just like, is this Thursday? Would this be the community call? Oh no.
So one thing I'll just throw out is, I think the last thing we want to be doing is making work for folks right now. So, I think the options are we don't meet on Thursday, or we meet on Thursday and somebody else comes up with the agenda, and I'm just not here. That's totally that's totally normal. Like that should work. Or we do something. You all do something that's less formal and just like a little bit more of a breather, and don't make a huge deal out of it, but keep it a little bit celebratory and focused on praise, but maybe not do like a big outreach effort. So those seem like 3 options to me. Any thoughts? Okay, let's do this just so that we don't spend the remaining time doing this. In the chat, just do 1, 2, or 3. 1 is don't meet on. 2 is meet on Thursday and somebody else pull together an agenda. And 3 is keep it more celebratory and focused on praise but just amongst this crew.
I have one question. Do we have like anything super urgent to speak on Thursday? Because that's if not, I will go with 1. But if we have, I would probably want to have it anyways.
I'm not aware of anything that's super urgent, but
Okay.
Yeah.
So
No,
1.
it's gonna be the idea of credentials wardens. So we haven't set out the plan yet, but that can wait until next Tuesday. But the idea would be that we have a specific person, which is the warden and in charge of maintaining the document, so that it's not maintaining the document for that platform. Because we can see if it's just one person, we can't keep track. But anyway, yeah, that can wait until next Tuesday. So I don't think so. And just a quick one before we leave. Has everybody seen that Discord Miro and taken a look at it? And so we have quorum in this group, so I can just ask essentially Omega rewards tomorrow and then go ahead and make the change.
So I feel bad because we're now knocking out Tam's items that she put on the agenda. So Rex, can you talk about that on the Sampo call on Thursday about like how to move that forward? Because I don't think we're gonna have time to like really address that in 2 minutes.
Everyone but Lily and Lily and Tam have seen it, so I'm happy to just, if you guys are free tomorrow in the call for credentials, I'd be happy to see you there and do it then, or just meet with you. So
Yeah, I mean, I have 10 minutes after this, if it works for you.
that'd be good. That'd be cool.
Cool.
Okay. And Rex, can you just post that one more time in the channel? I'll provide feedback to async. So, Tam, I'm sorry. I think we've run out of time. Can we talk about this on next Tuesday?
Let's just use this 1 minute if that's okay, because I really think it's important. We have a very successful, ambitious, impactful token engineer excited to start a token engineering working group. He was the steward of the labs, and now he wants to bring Sem in, who wrote all of our smart contracts. And I think we should encourage this to happen. And I just wanted to know if there was any immediate thoughts of why we wouldn't want this to take place on the TEC. I saw NT and Rex both responded, and Bear responded. So everyone, you guys have all responded, and it seems like we're super positive. I think it'd be great, and I think that we should encourage YGG and Sam to start meeting and doing some token engineering in a group in TEC. That's all I wanted to say. It's posted in the Communitas working group channel.
I just want to say if anyone has 5 minutes, we can maybe chat about this, because I think it's important as well.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to run. One thing I'll just throw out is whether maybe there's a way to pilot this as an interest group too, so it doesn't have to have as much overhead. I don't know what that would mean, but
Second.
Throw that out. So I need to run to another call, but thank you guys. This and Tam, I don't want to leave that hanging. So maybe can we just encourage them and then follow up on Tuesday on this? Just say we're really interested and we just want to get together and figure out what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, my leanings is we just sort of get out of the way and to see what emerges naturally and what works. But yeah, we can. I don't even know if we need to say Tuesday. I think we just encourage the things that make sense and are positive for the TEC. And this seems like one of the most clear-cut, amazing things that can happen for the TEC.
Second, I'll revive the labs. I'll give them back their channel. I think it's the easiest way to do it rather than having to speak on an unrelated one.
That's a cool idea. Let's see. That's a cool idea. So then is there anything else we want to talk about for that then?
I don't think so. I like what you said about just letting them do whatever or think whatever they think will work, and then we can just see how we support them.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think some really amazing things can end up starting to build in the TEC if we just sort of get out of the way of the token engineers that have a lot of momentum and passion and drive and have a track record of successes. So I just want to publicly say how much I want to support YGG and the efforts that he's making.
Yeah, I agree. So much.
Cool. So Rex, you wanted to share the credentials? Maybe that's the end of the call then.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Hopefully the screen works. Yes. Okay, nice. It is. Sorry, I lost it. I believe it's this one. Hey, there we go. Okay. So I made this mirror board. Essentially just comparing.
Wow.
Yes. It's just a spider diagram which I used to just compare current proposed so that we can visually see the differences.
Hey Rex, for some reason I don't have enough detail to read anything. I don't know if that's my side or your side, but maybe I could just hop on the Miro board.
Same here.
Okay. So I'll just zoom in a little bit. So
Okay. Better.
the biggest differences I wanted to make were, so first of all of this is so that I can standardize roles, because at the moment we have 9 admins and we need 0 or 1. People can, the admin role gives you the right to essentially override everything in the server, and Discord themselves tell you to give them to as least people as possible. So we shouldn't really have that many admins. Not even I need to be an admin. So that will get reduced to 1. But and anyway, so if I can sync roles, it'd just be way easier to manage. So that's the idea behind this. And the actual differences are that the start here, I'm trying to reduce that to less channels and to have specifically a guide channel that will include calendar verification, the guide, etc. So that we have a single point for people to go to now that we don't have communitas. The other differences was turning working groups into interest groups. I've spun off Gravity as their own category and rewards, and they're okay with it. And last is to move operations to its own section. That's just to do with these. Now, the one other difference, which I haven't mentioned, is I'd also like to add an access roles channel. If we're going to start providing services, it is not in the interest of everybody to see everything that's going on in the Commons, but it is, it for the sake of transparency, still useful to make all of this easily accessible. So my idea is to have gravity rewards, operations, and archive as self-selectable roles, which will give you access to view, comment, etc. in all of the different categories. So that's the whole proposed.
So if you land on the server, you would see like the start here, community stages, services, interest.
Yes. So when you start, when you enter this, you see the guide,
Mhm.
and it will let you verify. And once you verify, you will see all of this welcome, etc., and the access roles. And then you will also see the community stuff, because communities for everyone.
Mhm.
But that within Start Here, there will be an access roles channel, and the guide will point to that.
And that's
saying,
just for gravity rewards, operations. And you could have an archive access role?
yes.
Okay.
So I've set it up, but it's only visible to admins.
Got it.
And basically, at the moment, if you click on, can I make this code bigger? Yes, I can. Ooh. Right. If you go on the Start Here channel and you just click on the $sign, you will get the rewards role. And if you deselect it, you'll lose that role. And I can just assign that role to view rewards. And yes, the idea would be that, well, Gideon, Mitch, etc., do a simple post saying, right, this is rewards, blah, blah, blah. And then I just add the reaction role with the bots so that people can join it. That's the proposed changes.
Can I just add one challenge?
Mhm.
What would the negative consequence be, or what would the disadvantage be of allowing anyone who joins our Discord server to see the Gravity DAO rewards and operations?
It's messy. So anybody can still see it. They just can opt in rather than not be able to opt out. So the if you're coming into it's overwhelming really to see this many channels and to not be sure where to go, and this is just a more streamlined approach to doing things.
Yeah, Discord's a messy place. There's some servers that do really well, but they're all pretty distributed. At least the very active ones are. I would say the disadvantage I would see to requiring people to self-identify access role in would simply be many people won't do that. And the rewards team, for example, could benefit from some new fresh eyes on something they're doing, or the ops team could, or even Gravity DAO could. So it is for me, it just introduces some friction into the openness of the community. That's my only thought about access roles. But this is really great work, Rex. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that it does introduce some level of friction, but I'd say that it's minimal in the because otherwise it's just it doesn't streamline what the TC is for anything that is like services related. I mean, if you're coming in to only have a play with knowledge sharing, then getting pinged in with an at everyone in rewards, it's just annoying. And then people suppress the whole server, right? So they get 0 notifications and they fall out of touch.
Oh, I am
Completely.
on board with not using everyone anywhere ever. That is the
Yeah.
worst. I think I think we should never use that actually, because I have also stopped responding to the groups that use that.
Yeah, I've got to, I've got to suppress the my service myself. But there can be an opt-in to say notify me or something. I don't know.
That's a super interesting option to suppress the. Are can we from the server side suppress people using everyone?
We can. So I have redone all of these damn roles, but if I find the proper one, right, must be somewhere. Verified human is the one for people to verify,
Mhm.
and we can. Yeah, we can remove their access to everyone here and all roles on here. And these people do not have access. Now this also needs to be unchecked in every single channel. So I will have to check all of those eventually, but yes,
Interesting.
you can do it server side.
Yeah, there's something that you say about the coherence of, the Gravity DAO rewards and operations. It almost seems like they need some sort of like heading to differentiate them, to differentiate Gravity DAO from, operations and community and rewards, because otherwise, you're right, it's really not clear how these top level channels relate to each other.
Yeah, because, I mean, I would go as far as to say that Gravity needs their own server nowadays. But that's a decision that they need to take. This is just a push in the right direction.
I mean, what I would see is I feel like that's like we're incubating. Like maybe there's like an incubation and Gravity DAO's like in the incubation section, something like this, because they were pretty much incubated in the TEC, and that would seem to be like the right categorization for Gravity DAO. And
yeah.
then rewards. I mean, what is rewards is. So I'm seeing sort of like community, services, interest groups, rewards, and operations.
I think all the instructions from rewards should be available, like how people participate in praise. If they want to be a quantifier, they can just jump in. And then maybe all the rest of the conversation could be like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that I think that actually being a quantifier, having for example, the quantification reviews or the statistics should be done in community channels really, but having their separate categories and their separate roles also gives us access, and this I didn't mention, to category calendars. So it also, for example, back in the day with comms having 5 different calls, comms could have had their weekly sync in the TEC calendar and then have all of the others in the comms calendar and then be in a separate section, so that if people want to become involved, they join there. There's a single point to join, and for all of the other stuff and the noise, etc., that maybe just impacts negatively on the experience, can be under a calendar, which is also under the selectable role. So having those roles just gives a bit more.
Yeah, it's a trade-off though, right? Like there's definitely some advantages and some disadvantages to having the roles as well as to not having the role.
Yeah.
What is the trade-off for having them?
Yeah. I will join Omega and rewards call tomorrow anyway,